The Sutton Public Schools Committee meeting to order. Pursuant to Governor Healy's March 28, 2025 order extending the temporary provisions pertaining to the open meeting law until June 30th, 2027, this meeting of the school committee is in a hybrid format and is being recorded. All meeting recordings will be made available after proceedings on the town's website and YouTube channel. Meeting YouTube and Zoom links can be found at suttonma.org/cable-department. The school committee meeting has been called to order. Each member should state their name and whether they're attending in person or remotely. So with you.
Kozachka, aye. Kozachka in person.
Gibbons in person.
Jerome in person.
It's been a while.
Darling in person.
All right, meeting's been called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I know.
Thank you. All right, we'll start with the public forum.
Chris Garvin, 107 West Millbury Road, Sutton. Hello, everybody. I appreciate everything you all do for the community. I'm a parent of a 7th grader, a 3rd grader, and a kindergartner in Sutton Public Schools, and the current Sutton Youth Basketball president. School committee members, business manager, superintendent, thanks for taking the time to read our email we sent and letting me speak here before you to discuss the school facility rental fee. Sutton Youth Basketball values the partnership it has with the incredible custodial staff. We work alongside them. They're great to our kids. The school administrators here in Sutton are amazing, and they all tell us the excitement our program brings to the school. Sutton Youth Basketball is an all-volunteer, nonprofit organization. We offer recreational and travel basketball opportunities for the residents of Sutton, grades K through 8 throughout the year. We support 15-plus travel teams and weekly recreational basketball sessions, serving more than 200 Sutton students each winter. None of this would be possible without our 30-plus coaches donating their valuable time. Historically, our fees to our athletes have been in line with the costs associated with it. We are not doing it to make a profit. In the proposed rate hikes regarding the fees, the new rental fee that never existed per gym, and the 20% hike for the janitor fee. These expenses would need to be passed on to the athletes and Sutton parents. The rental fee alone would be about $10 more per child, and a 20% increase in janitor fees would be another $6 per child. That's a considerable rate increase from one year to the next for us, excluding any additional rate fees, including our insurance and a league fee that we know is going up. Our referee fees also went up last year. I don't expect them to go up this year, but it's always a possibility. In these uncertain economic times, the number of families with hardships could grow, and we don't want our students to be priced out of this valuable opportunity to play basketball. We understand wanting to have better handle on the rental usage of the building. However, when it comes to Sutton basketball, the people this is affecting are the Sutton families. Outside dance competitions are charging at least $25 per person, whereas the admission price that we are allowed to charge from our league is $3 per person. Sutton residents attend for free per the league's request to encourage people from the community to stop and cheer on the teams. We do have other parents, friends, parents, grandparents, senior citizens come and support us to build that sense of community. Sutton Youth Basketball is a fundamental part of the Sutton Public School athletics. Without us, our middle school JV and varsity players would miss out on years of team building, practice, and game experiences. Sutton Youth Basketball took the initiative to meet with the varsity and JV coaches to ensure we're aligning ourselves with their program philosophies. In fact, it was us and that group of people that involved in the initial discussions surrounding bringing back middle school basketball teams that are privately funded and coached in part by a Sutton Youth Basketball board member, Ryan Fatman. We will continue to field middle school teams for the players that don't make the school team so they aren't missing out on the opportunity to play as well. Simply put, Sutton Youth Basketball is an integral partner of the Sutton Public Schools, and we truly hope you'll reconsider charging an additional rental fee to us to a program that is essential to the students of Sutton. Thanks for all you do and taking your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Okay. Thanks, everyone. We'll move on to the consent agenda then. And I'll need a motion.
Sorry. I move to approve the consent agenda, including executive minutes of April 7th, 2025, as presented.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion or questions on those minutes, executive minutes, or bill schedules?
No.
Okay. We'll take it for a vote then.
Kozachka, aye.
Gibbons, I'll abstain.
Jerome, aye.
Darling, aye.
Okay. Motion passes 3. Okay. We'll move on to the education portion of our update, starting with the trip to Greece, and we'll need
I'll make a motion to approve the trip to Greece as presented.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Thanks.
I was ready to say Kozachka, aye.
I'm ready to vote on the field trip, sorry.
Kyla Wheeler, 50 Stone School Road. Hi, thank you for lending us your time here. Many of you may have received the email from me that I sent yesterday. My name is Kyla. I'm a junior at Sutton High School. I was supposed to have a softball game today, but as you can probably tell, we did get rained out. I brought up the idea originally of a trip to Greece because I felt that it would be a really cool experience, once in a lifetime, that we would always treasure and hold with us when we thought back to our high school days. Luckily, these two volunteered to help me out in making that a possibility. And today we're going to bring it before you in hopes of getting your approval to run it next spring. And all I can say is that I'm really excited at the possibility of this trip. I think it would be an extraordinary opportunity to explore a different culture, a different place, and create memories that will last a lifetime.
Okay, for the logistics. So I'm also here on behalf of the high school students seeking approval for an international trip to Greece in April 2026. The trip would run from approximately April 17th to April 24th, 2026. Those dates are a little bit flexible depending on flights. We would be partnering with ACIS. They are the American Council for International Studies, so they do many international trips with students. So they have a lot of credibility, and they have a lot of great references for people to check on too. The total cost of the trip to students would be $4,129. That breaks down to $413 a month, and there's a payment plan through ACIS, and that would actually be all paid in theory by December 2025. So we would have a little bit of time and a little bit of flexibility and cushioning before the trip in April. The trip is fairly inclusive. It includes the round-trip flights, all the hotel stays, 3- and 4-star hotels, sources of local transportation. We have a full-service tour manager who would be with us for the duration of the trip, local guides for specific sites, 2 meals a day, breakfast and dinner, unless lunch is substituted, all the entrances to attractions, a basic protection plan, and gratuities and things like that. So it's pretty inclusive, like lunch. When we were in Europe with 100 people, we always had some free time during the day, and that's when we would have our midday meal. We would go out for lunch or something, so that was a little bit extra if you wanted to get some gelato or something like that. But everything is pretty well included, I think, in the cost of the trip. They also support personal fundraising. They allow, there's an online portal for the kids, so they can do personal fundraising, so they can say, hey, I'm planning to go to Greece in April 2026. Grandma, aunts and uncles, family, friends, please donate to my trip. Instead of getting me a birthday present, please donate to my Greece trip. They also offer scholarships as well. They're offering us $500 for every 5 students enrolled to up to $2,000, so that's pretty generous. They have an international infrastructure and a 24/7 emergency line, so they have it very well organized, and they have local contacts in all their European countries. So we were thinking that we would like to bring a group of about 40 people, keep it to one bus, because managing 100 people in two buses in different flights was a bit of a handful. It was quite an endeavor. We would have about one chaperone to every 6 students. That's the ACIS ratio, where at school it's 1 to 10. And then we were thinking, well, Kyla did an interest survey, and we had 27 yes, we're interested in this, and a bunch of maybes. So the maybes had questions about the length of the trip, the cost of the trip, where you go, where you stay. So we're hoping after a family meeting, we might be able to increase that number. And then we would give priority to seniors, juniors, and then we would open to sophomores and freshmen. So we had a couple of different options for tours that we would like to attend. So we chose the Olympians, which is pretty classic Greece. It starts and ends in Athens, and it stops, makes a big circle around the country, and a lot of popular sites are included in the trip. There would also be a Greek cultural evening, and the tour manager, well, the rep that we've been working with, has said, this is just a starting point, so we can kind of customize, and if there's something we wanted to add or adapt, that they're open to working with us on that. Do you have anything else you want to add, Terry?
Here to help out. Okay. Whatever you need.
So that's what we got.
Good.
Yeah, first of all, sorry about your game.
All right.
But I'm really glad you're here.
Yeah,
Yes,
this
we're
is
glad
all.
she's here.
This
And
was
this
all
is
hard.
great. I mean, you could be more fortunate to have the two folks that you have with you to do this. I was fortunate to go to Europe. That was my question. I know when they had it, they said 2 buses is a lot. So that's great. If you have challenges getting to the 40, I would love to see Greece. So that's how it worked last time. And,
That was a great travel
families might have pushed the number over a bit, but I think it was student interest. I'm sure you're going to fill the buses. I'm a huge fan of any time we go out and see the world, see other cultures, see other people. So thank you for bringing this.
Is there a minimum number you need?
He did not give us a minimum, but we were thinking like 20 is a good minimum and a good place
Yeah.
to start. Because that's the Costa Rica trips are anywhere in there, in that range.
2025.
Oh, I love it.
I think it's amazing. You already know how I'm going to vote since I was reading it over before here. The itinerary looks amazing. While I understand the cost is considerable for what you're getting for the trip and that itinerary, I think it's reasonable. And I agree. I would love to chaperone. I don't think my daughter would let me go, but
We had talked about doing fundraisers within the community too, so that's something we're going to explore together as well.
I know as an adult, it's very hard to do a trip and see all that for that price. So even though people look at it and say, well, that's a lot of money, for what you do and what you see,
yeah.
a lot of people never get a chance to get back to Europe. So to go and see some of the wonders of the world is amazing. So I think it's very exciting.
Thank you.
Just a logistical piece. You mentioned 1 to 6 for your ratio, but your form says 1 to 8. Is it now changed to 1 to 6? Or
That was the
somewhere in that range?
ACS number, so I think that we would make it 1 to 6.
That's fine. Just wanted to make sure we know the right number. And then you already asked me. I think it's great. I'm with everyone else here. As soon as you got the chance to get students to see more than Sutton, it's an awesome thing. So thanks for thinking of it. Thanks for bringing it, making it try to happen. So with that being said, if there's no questions, we'll take the vote and see what happens. Never know.
Kazachka, aye.
Gibbons, aye.
Jerome, I.
Darling, I.
Motion passes 4-0.
Thank you.
Have a great time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We're going to move on to the AI committee presentation.
He's immediately at the computer.
We're creatures of
And just shuffling a little bit. Yeah, I'll slide over.
One thing at a time.
Come in your way, Joe. So that way my face is not.
Okay. So I'm Brian Laporte. I'm the assistant principal at Sutton Middle School and High School, and Corin principal, Sutton Middle School. So last year, we started to hear about this AI thing that was up and coming, and then through all of our professional groups, we kept seeing AI this, and we said, well, we should probably get ahead of this before we are behind it. So we established a committee for the middle school, high school to talk about artificial intelligence, and here's kind of what we've been doing over the last several months. So the committee members, Tim McCarthy, principal of the high school, and myself, we had Corbin from the tech department, Ms. Hernandez from world language, Mr. Whittier from history. Then we had 3 parents, Mr. Berncramp, Ms. Hastings, and Mr. Slivka. Mr. Berncramp has students both middle school and high school, same with Mr. Slivka. And then Beth Hastings is actually the executive director for data science and innovation at Holy Cross. It's like what she does is AI, so it was fantastic to have her as a resource on the committee. So why are we looking at AI? Just to be clear, AI will not take your job. Okay, that's not what we're saying. But what we are saying is that someone who knows how to use AI could take your job. This is an up-and-coming field. It's everywhere. Right now, like Zoom AI is probably transcribing this meeting. Sorry, Hannah. So just to take a look back, this is a newspaper article from 1988 where the math teachers were asking for a ban on calculators, push them off, turn them off till upper grades. They're not able to handle it. What are we teaching our kids? And I think that we could all say that we use calculators on a daily basis today. In 2025, the version of that is we should ban ChatGPT. So, a form of AI. So what we want to do is just talk about also like the World Economic Forum every year puts out a future of job reports. This is the report from 2023, talks about the top 10 skills on the rise that the workforce is looking for. Top creative thinking, analytical thinking, technology literacy. Down at number 7 is AI and big data. So that's all the way down in number 7, that's 2023. And then going to fast forward to this year's report about the top 10 skills on the rise, or the fastest growing skills. Right there at number 1 is AI and big data. Number 1. So those are the top 10 fastest growing skills by 2030. So people in the workforce, people that our students were preparing them for, are looking for students for people that can handle and can manage AI. So basically, if you're not aware or you're not sure, the simple definition is artificial intelligence, or AI, is the use of computer systems to simulate human mental processes such as interpreting and generating language. So what that means is it's computer systems that perform tasks that would typically require human intelligence. It can process and understand language. It can make decisions, solve problems, learn from experience, recognize patterns, and interact with the environment. And it carries out complex tasks with little or no human intervention. So that's AI in general, but there's also what we refer to as generative AI or Gen AI. And that's kind of what you're seeing a lot of now, where it's a type of artificial intelligence that can create new, and I'll use air quotes around new, content including text, images, music, and code. It takes a large amount of existing data and uses that knowledge to generate new outputs similar to the data it was trained on. Any music fans out there, you'll know that the Beatles just won a Grammy for Best Rock Performance this year, and that was partially written by AI. They took an old song that John Lennon wrote, stripped his vocals out, and then they used AI to fill in the rest of the parts. So the Beatles just won a Grammy using AI. So where do we find it? Everywhere. You find it everywhere. If you notice now when you do a Google search, one of the top result is it'll say like AI generated Gemini, and it gives you a whole breakdown. Grammarly, which kids have been using for a grammar check all along, now has the option like, do you want me to write your essay for you? Navigation apps like Waze, that kind of, hey, here's a quicker route if you want to avoid the traffic. Predictive text, social media, chatbots, when you log on and you're chatting with that person online. AI is everywhere, so we're trying to get ahead of it and make sure how we're using it appropriately for our students. So we were originally looking at coming up with an AI policy, but then we decided that we were going to shift from policy to guidelines. And just a little bit of background on that. We figured that with guidelines, it gave us a little bit more flexibility and adaptability. So we know sometimes policy is hard to get through because you have to have multiple readings, you have to have postings, and the guidelines will allow us to kind of stay ahead of things, so that we're not, because if we took the time to pass a policy, by the time it passed, we would have to rewrite it again to update it. So community engagement, we're going to continue with our AI committee at the middle school, high school, involving parents, involving more students, just so we can get that feedback and we can make sure that the guidelines that we're putting forth accurately represent what we want to be doing in the schools. Again, the immediate implementation, once we get these guidelines in, we can start working. We've seen at both the middle school and the high school the need for some guardrails around AI and what it can be used for and what it can't. And right now we're living in kind of a gray area where some of the kids are using it because they don't know if it's okay, or they think it's okay, or if it's okay if I use it like this as long as they say I'm using it. And we just want to make sure that we're in front of it so we let our students know what's expected and what they can use it for. And then again, balancing innovation and caution. So we don't want to just be like, everybody use AI for everything. It's a great tool. There is some of that, but we want to make sure that we have the appropriate guardrails in place so that we're protecting our students and their data. Mm-hmm. So this is just a highlight of some of the 8 guidelines that we've kind of come up with. So the first and the most prominent guideline is about AI literacy. So we want, that includes understanding AI's capabilities and limitations, what it can do, what it can't do. Okay, it cannot do math. It can't do math for you because it just pulls from large language models. It doesn't actually do the math for you. And then students will learn to use AI tools effectively, understand their impacts, and identify misinformation and biases. We've learned that the more information that goes into these large language models, the more AI tends to what they call hallucinate or kind of create things that don't actually exist. If you ask it to generate a list of articles, half of the articles just don't exist. They're links to blank pages. So it's about teaching the students that even though if you use AI, that you have to fact check it, you have to verify that the information is accurate. So it's not just using it and creating, but it's using it as a guide to then go back and use. Academic integrity, this is a huge one with the staff, making sure that it should augment and not replace original thought. Okay, we want our students to do the work, and AI is a way to help them with the work, but they should be doing the work themselves. And that, students must cite AI use, including acknowledging how AI was used. Like, did you use it for paraphrasing? Was it for editing? Did you use it to brainstorm? And the MLA website actually has a tool for citing like ChatGPT already. So if you're using AI, they're already prepared to teach students how to cite that in their works. Acceptable use also, we need to make sure that we're adhering to the district's acceptable use policy with student accounts that goes along with the age appropriateness and the agreement requirements for the individual tools that we might be looking at. So we need to make sure that we're following all of that. And then the ethical use, we're asking that the students use it responsibly. That includes creating, sharing, and modifying digital content ethically. Everybody had this fad of making their own superhero action figures on Facebook a couple of weeks ago, and that was all AI, so we want to make sure that the students are using AI appropriately. Data privacy is a huge one. Ms. Hastings was very key on pushing on this one, aware that any interactions with the AI tools may not be private and that any information that you're putting into the large language model becomes part of the large language model, so that when you're putting in information, it's staying and now it's being used for other AI generations. And that not finding a way to make sure that we're not using PII, the personally identifiable information, with the AI tool, so that student names or staff names or student data is being added to all of that. Classroom use, this is where we came up with just unless specifically stated, AI should not be used for assignments or assessments. So, we went back and forth of, well, we'll tell you about it on each assignment, but we're just going to go with a blanket. We're not going to use it until we can all get our heads wrapped around what we want you to do with it. And that from the teacher standpoint, AI will supplement and not replace instruction. Yes, it can absolutely help you with lesson plans. It can help you identify parts of your lesson that you want to enhance. If you want to add student engagement, you can ask AI to help you, here's my lesson I've been doing for 10 years, come up with some activities that will have more student engagement. It will help you with that. But we're not going to say, create my curriculum using AI. Correct. Bias awareness, there's going to be bias in AI, including race, gender, religion, cultural language, and politics. We see that when you ask it a question and it may respond with male pronouns, or it may respond with a gender, or it may respond with, there's language issues. Ms. Hastings used the example. She asked her students, if I said red, what word would come next? A lot of the students said socks. Another student who was not from Massachusetts said truck, because she wasn't used to red socks. So there's some difference in there. And then the consequence for misuse, obviously, if you're misusing AI tools, it will result in disciplinary action, just like anything else in the high school with academic integrity. So one of the things that we've been doing with our staff in their departments is figuring out what is acceptable. So here are some multiple things that AI can help students with, that can help staff with, and we're working now as a school to figure out what we want students to use it for, what we want staff to use it for, what we want parents to use it for, what we want everybody to be able to do with AI. So what's next? So the staff have already this year participated in 6 hours of professional development on AI. They have explored various AI tools. They worked on creating effective prompt generation. So, when you're asking AI to do something for you, how do you do that efficiently and effectively so that you get the results that you want? And then how to use AI as a tool for educators. How can it help us with our processes in the classroom? And then each department has discussed how AI may or may not be used for the individual subject matter. How you use AI in English is going to be very different than how you use it in math or art or history. So instead of saying a blanket statement for the school of this is how you can use AI, we're leaving that to the individual departments to say, in English, you can use it to help you with your grammar and spelling, but in math, you can't ask it to solve the equation for you. And then moving forward, we're going to have continued professional development next year to discuss the department, the PLC team time, to discuss the appropriate uses of AI in the curriculum. The AI committee will continue to meet and discuss and modify the current guidelines and make appropriate recommendations for essentially, eventually, school committee policy to go out K to 12. But for right now, we're thinking just middle school, high school, working on these guidelines until we get ahead of it and make sure that we're doing things in the right direction. So. Are there any questions about the committee work or what we've done here?
I mean, first of all, thank you. This is great, and I appreciate you working to get on top of this, because it is a big area. Silly question, but did you use AI to create the presentation? Seems like a good opportunity.
Not to create the entire presentation, but some of the guidelines. So what we did was we used, it's called a closed network large language model. It's called Notebook LM. It's actually part of the Google suite. And we actually gathered a bunch of AI policies from different schools around the country. And we kind of plugged those in. And we said, okay, what are some of the commonalities in all these guidelines? I do the same thing with high school handbooks and middle school handbooks. I have a whole large language model of handbooks. So I can say, hey, give me all the attendance policy language from all the schools. And it will pop up a T-chart with all the different language in there. So, no. This is our stuff.
But it is nice. It sounds like it's having an assistant when we can't afford to hire one.
Yeah.
And then after Notebook LM brought all that information together and came up with the guidelines, the humans sat and went through each of the guidelines, and that's where we tweaked things and put our own input in for what works for our school and our students and our staff.
Our actual intelligence.
Yes, our actual
Thank you.
intelligence.
It's
It's
a
only
good
as
group of
smart as the
humans
people using it.
assembled,
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for the work. When these newer things come out, I think it's always scary, especially for education. Like, you never know. There could be great uses, but there's also dangers with those things. I think it's great that you're starting with some guidelines. I'd also say if there's general policy things that we can put in place that don't get quickly dated, then those are great things for us to explore and just put into place as holders for how do we ensure the students are protected in both their academic work too. But thank you. It was great.
Policy to follow the AI guidelines.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So you'll be seeing when we do our handbook updates, you'll see this language in the middle school and high school handbook updates. So just as a heads up, wanted to share a little bit of information but prior to that. So when you see them, you're like, oh, okay, now I know where that came from. So just a little background information.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for your efforts. It was certainly not an area that I know a lot about, and I'm sure the students are ahead of many of us. So it's great work, and it's important to have these guidelines.
Is there anything in the elementary yet on policy, not on policy, but with like DESI guidelines for our computer special? No, nothing. You think that's where we would introduce things, or
possibly in 5th grade, but we've shut off so many of the features and they're not able to access much at the elementary level anymore because they haven't shown us that they have the skills to be able to access those features yet.
Okay.
So at this time, I would say no, but maybe moving forward, as there's more advances in AI, we may need to look at bringing that down to the elementary level.
And some of it right now is the specific tools that we're using. A lot of them have an age 13 or age 18
Limit.
Agreement. So trying to find tools that will be effective and appropriate for the younger grades or even in our younger middle school students is going to be a challenge.
Good to know.
So how are we going to educate students on AI literacy and proper usage?
So once the department chairs and directors and all the people in the department figure out how they're going to use it in the classroom, that's when they'll say, oh, look, if we're creating a timeline or if we're doing an outline for English, here's how you can use AI to help you develop that timeline. Or here's a history lesson. We're going to go and we're going to use this specific AI tool and you're going to chat with Abraham Lincoln on a chat, and you're going to use it that way. So then that's going to help inform you of how you can use it. So they're going to be it's not going to be say like, oh, you could use AI for this assignment or for this assessment or for this lesson, this project. It's going to be, here's the specific ways that you should be able to use it.
And second question, right now on all school devices, AI is blocked. So will that change next year?
So part of that is we have to work with Mr. Durgan about figuring out which tools we want to use and how we're going to get those. Because again, a lot of it is the age requirements for those because we have students that span a wide range. We need to make sure that we're using ones that are appropriate for all grade levels. But once we get that's part of the process is going through and finding all those.
Okay.
In middle school, they're working a lot with AI literacy as well. So in 6th grade in their computer classes, they're getting a really good foundation and understanding where it is, where they experience it and interact with it in their lives and things like that. So they're starting to get that introduction as well at the middle grades.
Excellent.
Thank you.
Again,
I
thank
think that's
you so
it.
much.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Lots of good work. And thanks to all the community and other members you had too that didn't present. Obviously, there was a ton of work that went into that. Okay. We'll move on then to review and approve job descriptions. So I'll need a motion before we present that.
I'll make a motion to approve the job descriptions as presented.
I'll second it.
Okay, so in your school committee packet, there were a handful of job descriptions. One of the things that I've quickly noticed is we have multiple job descriptions for the same position. We aren't sure which one is the newest one because none of them are dated. They are often formatted differently on different types of letterhead and with different categories. So one of the things that the district leadership team has started to do is to just try to format them all the same. And so the ones that are in the packet for this week are the positions that we will be anticipating having next year or will be current openings next year because people are either retiring or resigning, things like that. So it made sense to start with those. So what you'll see when you go through these job descriptions is they are all formatted exactly the same way. And they all have the same categories. If on your copy you see something that's yellow, highlighted yellow, for example, position type, that is something that could change from full-time to part-time. And then also in some of the STA ones, you'll see in the summary, it will say like the Simonian Center for Early Learning is in search of a blank. This will change based on what the job is. It might say grade 5 teacher, it might say grade 4 teacher, grade 3 teacher, but the job responsibilities are still all the same as an elementary teacher. So we're not going to have a different job description for every grade level. The same with the middle school and high school. You're not going to have a different job description for each content level because when you go down to the portion about licensures and certifications, it will tell you what licensure and certification you will have to have for whatever position we're posting. So that is why when Di formatted those for us, she highlighted those pieces because those are the pieces that will change based on the specific job, if that makes sense. So like I said, these positions, we're not overhauling the job descriptions and drastically changing anything in them. If we were to drastically change the job requirements and responsibilities for any of our positions in the STA or the SESA, we would put a committee together to change those job descriptions. This right now is basically, let's get them all formatted correctly and make sure that we're on the same page. And it might be something in future years that we want to look at and have a committee on to see if we need to change the responsibilities of the job, but right now we just want to get some consistency. And the goal is, as we bring these to the committee, to be able to, at the bottom, say that they were presented to the committee on this date and approved, so that we know what the most recent version of all job descriptions is moving forward.
That's great. Thank you. I know we've said this at numerous meetings, but the lack of consistency on forms and policies and guidelines at the district level is something that we knew we need to address. So I think this is a great step in covering that guidance and making sure that we have those things covered.
Yeah, it's not always the most exciting work, but it is necessary and beneficial, and it builds on a good foundation for moving forward. So thank you. It's a great step towards correcting things.
Any questions on any of those job descriptions?
No, thank you.
Okay. In that case, we'll take it to a vote.
Kozachka, aye.
Gibbons, aye.
Jerome, aye.
Darling, aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. We're going to move to the budget and finance portion.
All right, so I'm not going to go too in depth with this. It's not really changed since the last time we've presented it. It doesn't require a vote because the financials are still the same. There were some minor tweaks as far as some positions being filled, so some of those names for those respective positions were updated into the budget, and that's why I've just provided a new copy of it in general fund format for you to review, ask questions if need be. It is also posted online. Again, this is the budget that will be voted on by the town at the upcoming May town meeting. So I'll turn it over to you guys if you have any questions.
So I'm looking at the financial standing update.
No, that's for the current fiscal year. You'd want to look at the Munis report that's labeled Budget Projections 2026.
Then no, I'm good for the moment.
All right. Like I said, there wasn't much of a change.
Yep.
But it's on the website. I encourage anyone to download it, look at it before the town meeting. If you have questions, reach out to me or Caitlin. We'd be more than happy to answer anything that comes up. The FY25 budget update. Not really going to go into too much in depth on this as well. We are entering into our fiscal year close period, so the entire team is reviewing the general fund, revolving grants and capital accounts, working with all of the different departments throughout the district and the town to start to request some of those invoices be turned over to the business office so that we can get the books closed. This year, unlike most years, our timeline is pushed up with a lot of retirements on the town's end. So we want to make sure that our books are closed out as early as possible without losing any accuracy in the fiscal year close. So, we have a lot of new players stepping in. We want to make sure that we close the books in accordance with those people leaving and new, administrators and department heads coming on board. There's a few key highlights. I'm not going to go into the general fund. We're reclassifying any of those negative balances. We're requesting funds come through at the federal and state levels for grants. Capital reports, I'm going to just touch base on. So the really only expense action items that have hit our books are the soccer fields, and I'm sure Caitlin's going to be touching base on the logistics of it in the facilities update, but we have primarily completed most of those field renovations, so that expense will hit that capital account. The sign repair or replacements for the high school and the Simonian Center, again, that vendor is fabricating those signs, so they're going to be installed hopefully by fiscal year end. We continue to have a lot of other smaller projects, such as the underground storage tank that we hope to complete this summer. Our facilities manager made great headway with the roof repairs of the middle school, high school, as you saw last time with that drone flyover report. So the operations team is working very diligently to try to use the remaining funds in that capital account to address some of those highlighted issues. And we'll have a better standing at the end of this fiscal year, but my goal is to really close out most of the capital accounts to make way for the incoming capital ones. And then you'll see slight activity on the grant section. It's primarily going to be within the IEP grant, the title grants, and the IDEA grants. We've requested all funds to be distributed at this point, so over the next month we'll receive those advice credits at the town level and reclass expenses from the general fund so that they'll all balance out. And again, I'm very pleased that the district made progress with all of these grants, so that this year, unlike any year, at least in my time with the district, we will have a $0 balance in all grants, which we've never had before. It goes to show the dedication that everyone involved, from the special ed department to the district office, put into cleaning up these accounts. And again, the revolving accounts, I'm not going to dive into every single one of these. We continue to reclassify the funds per the allocations the committee voted through. We've received a couple of donations, which will go into the gifts and donations section of tonight's report. Circuit breaker, we just received the third quarter distribution of those funds, so we'll wait for the final fourth quarter distribution, and then we'll reclassify all of those expenses to offset that revolving account. The one key thing that I want to point out with the revolving account, oftentimes people will look at this and they'll say, that's fantastic. We have $3.4 million in revolving funds. If you read between the lines, it portrays a different story. These funds are not infinite. They're finite funds. Once you use them, they're gone. We plan on using most of them by the end of this year and to carry out the budget that was voted upon, and hopefully the town votes it through for next year. So when you see this, look at it as finite resources that are not easily replaced, are covering crucial areas to continue the district's operation, and a solution needs to be brought forth to cover these sources of revenue once they're depleted, right? It's just like if you were looking at oil reserves, you need the oil to continue your operations of your vehicle. If you deplete those reserves, you're not going to be able to continue the vehicle for operating. And, the district does a really good job with balancing how to use these funds, but there really does need to be a good process and 5-year plan in place to make sure that it continues to be used appropriately. So that's the update for the FY25 budget status. Bus signups are, I'll turn it over to you, Ben, if you guys have any questions.
Anyone have any questions?
I mean, the usual, thank you. And as you mentioned at the beginning, I would encourage anybody from the community, if you see stuff and you have questions, Harrison is the right person to talk to. Oftentimes when you look at these, you will see something marked in red and it's, alarms go off. Sure, yeah, we've asked for that. You've helped make something much simpler that is quite complex. Even still, it's not a very simple thing. So when people see things where you see overages, sometimes it can be alarming. Like there's one in there, it's over by 1,100%. That's a lot, but the budget was 500, it's 5,000. Yes, it's not big money, we still track everything, and oftentimes if you talk with Harrison, it was a reallocation from somewhere else where it is covered, or it's going to be paid, or it's a situation where, we had an off situation where we needed more funds and we will find it elsewhere. I think the one big one that I would ask you to just touch on, because it's big and it's considerate, is the tuition out. That's a tough one. We deal with that every year.
Yep. So like most things, the district's well aware of our out-of-district fees or costs to our general fund. We meet on a monthly basis with, Caitlin, the special ed director, Jessica, the administrative assistants that are responsible for paying some of these, and the business office. We classify all out-of-district tuitions, and they go through the PO process into the general fund, which is just one housing source to pay these expenses. The primary funding source for these expenses comes from circuit breaker, which is about $1.1 million. IDEA 240, which is an additional $380,000. And then, as you just saw about a month ago at this point, the special ed stabilization account on the town's end. So we have the revenues to cover these expenses in different cost centers. It's just easier for the district to account and to encumber against these out-of-district costs in one place. Once all of those invoices are received, like we hope to have within the next 3 weeks, we will start to take that $1.8 million expense and spread it out over these different funding sources. And I can say right now, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that the district is operating as intended for out-of-district tuition expenses with the help of the town and the special ed stabilization account. We aren't going to be in a spot this fiscal year where we're not operating outside of the committee's purview and what the expectation was set for.
Yeah, and mostly I was just trying to give that example because, again, $500 to $5,000 is a lot. Tuition out is a whole nother thing. And, not to take away from that, again, you give me confidence that we have it covered, and that's good. And, for people that want to know about circuit breaker, we've talked about that in meetings, and it's up on the state website, our website. But, I don't want to lessen the thought. We're handling it very well, but at any point, the town could be hit with a tuition out that really makes it a struggle. And that's why we've been fortunate with Town Hall creating that account. So, again, thank you for all that you do.
Yeah, thank you. I think Nate said it well. Sometimes we look at these things and we think it's pretty simple stuff, but there's a lot that goes behind the scenes. So thanks for everything you and your office does to make it much more easier to understand than I think it's ever been before.
Okay. Care about bus sign-up.
Yeah, bus signups. Woo!
All right, so talking about how things are changing, right? Bus signups this year. A lot of thought has gone into it. I know the committee has expressed interest in understanding the regular ed bus setup. It's how it operates. Are we operating with more buses than what we actually need? Are the buses filled to a capacity that is safe, efficient, and supporting best behaviors for the students on those buses? So, Missy Whitford, our transportation coordinator, all of the principals, Caitlin, myself, we all want to see a better process unfold this year than any year in the past. And we're not saying that everything was bad in the past, but there's definitely a different way to approach this that other districts roll out that Sutton historically hasn't. Some of that is really good for the parents and students of Sutton, and some of it is going to be a big change. I think the expectation has always been K to 6, my kid is going to be put on a bus route whether we use it or not. And that's not efficient, it's not cost effective, and it's actually creating a large backlog for our vendor to try to manage all of those addresses and routes and where kids are going and where they're not supposed to be, and it's a safety risk as well. So that's going away this year. We're going to do our best to advertise this in as many different places as possible so the rollout goes efficiently. It's going to be in the newsletter. It's going to be on the website. I'm going to be speaking about it at this committee meeting and the committee meeting in June. We're going to be having pamphlets sent out at the younger grade levels for all the students. We want every parent in town to know that this year is going to be a change, but it's a change for the better. And hopefully, the data we collect from this will put the district in a position that might allow next year's committee to look at how many buses we have operating and say, that's actually no longer needed. So a lot of thought's been put into this, and we're trying to do what's right for the students at the same time. I've flagged June 23rd as the bus closeout date. So within the next 2-week period, I'm going to be working with Unibank. We're going to be posting the bus signups for next year for grades 6 or 7 to 12 through Unibank, because those are the grades that pay. And then we are going to be developing a Google form for K to 6 to sign up. Though there's no cost, you still will need to sign up. And that's going to be the biggest hurdle for the town and district, because those families have never been asked to sign their child up in the past. They've just expected, you know, it's always been a pre-sign up. If we live in town and our kid goes to school, there will be a spot for them on the bus. So we're going to do our due diligence on our end to make sure that everyone understands that there is a change. You must fill out the form. If you do not fill out the form by that closeout date, there's not going to be an easy way to add you to the stop. And I'm not saying that if you're a new move-in or there's extraordinary circumstances that you're not going to be able to sign up. Obviously, you're still going to be able to sign up. But we want to make sure that the bus companies have their routes in advance so that we can communicate with the parents and community members of what your child's bus route looks like for next year, which hopefully also shortens the times on the buses. It allows the buses to go to more house stops as opposed to group stops where kids are having to walk on the roads. If we can decrease the quantity of students that are on these bus rosters, and those students might not actually even ride the bus company has more liberty to make the stops directly at your address. So there's a lot that goes into it, but I did want to bring this up to the committee because I know there's been a lot of interest in it. I know a lot of families are probably thinking about it right now. The one other thing that I'll touch on, because many people do reach out, even though there's only about 13-ish students that it affects, the Norfolk Aggie bus bid was awarded recently. The Mendon Upton business manager has historically been the person in charge of working with that bus company to set up the group stops for the Norfolk Aggie bus runs. Those are always posted around the second week or third week of August. They'll be put on the district's website and communicated with the respective families who utilize that form of transportation. So that's my bus update. If there's any questions, I can take them now.
What was the K to 6 sign up date? Was it end of June also? Or?
Yep, so I'm going to have all of it beyond June 23rd, Monday. Last year it was June 16th for the 7 to 12 signups, so we're pushing it a little bit out, but I think it's still a doable time range. It gives us over a month of it being posted online for families to sign up.
Do we have a policy or anything that, or I thought there was a state something saying that a certain age they needed?
So it has to be available for them when they're
Available.
in kindergarten through 6th grade.
Okay.
And that's why we don't charge.
Okay. And we don't have a policy that says if you live within any sort of thing. Okay.
I know busing is always a challenge, so I
Yep.
appreciate trying to think of ways to make it
a
smoother.
lot of work goes into it on the principal's end from a behavioral perspective, from, our transportation end. Nicole, Ryan, and Missy Whitford put a lot of effort in to communicate with the parents and reassure them about questions they might have. So a big shout out to them as well.
have you seen a decrease in the behaviors this year?
I would say yes, but they've also implemented PBIS on the bus as well. So now the bus drivers are giving out those Starbucks that the classroom teachers and specialists give out throughout the day. And as someone who tries to be out at drop off and pick up at the elementary school most days, we have a lot of kids on bus routes that don't need to be on bus routes because their parents have always driven them to school, and it's taking up valuable time on those routes because we're placing them on a route and they may never step foot on that bus.
Are the bus drivers stopping, or is it after a certain amount of days?
A lot of
they
times
just-
they will, especially if you get a sub driver or your driver quits midway through the year and then they have to relearn. These lists are lengthy because of how many people we put on them. Even if the bus only has 42 kids, the bus roster might have 65 kids. And, if there's a sub driver or a new driver, they're stopping at every single one of those stops. And then you'll have the parent say, hey, what gives? It's been 3 months of consistent times, new bus driver, and now it's 10 minutes later. Oh, sorry, it's because the driver's relearning the routes, stopping at all the stops that kids aren't at. So we have to improve the way we're operating.
Does the bus company schedule the stops? Like, let's say there's so many stops that are like every 50 feet or something. Do
Yep.
they have a limit where they say, okay, this is the common stop?
I mean, they have to obviously operate from a safety perspective as well that the state holds them to, but they're also a private business, so they have to do what's cost effective for them and realistic for them because they have a time schedule that they have to keep from, our district's unique. Our same drivers that operate the middle school, high school route do the Simonian and elementary route. So if they have to have group stops because there are 50 kids on a bus and they have to be at the first elementary school pickup for a specific time to keep to that schedule, yeah, there's going to be more group stops. If there's a lot of students put on buses and not all of them ride, we often have to tell the families, you can't bring your instruments to and from via bus, or your golf bags or your field hockey bags. Those will have to either be brought separately or kept at the school. And we don't want to have to message that to the families, so we want to incorporate these small changes so that it's a better experience for everyone.
Thank you.
And just for clarity, because I still have to remind myself, if you do not have a younger child, we are not giving out coffee or Starbucks barista gift cards.
No,
That is a
no.
program, Star Dollars, Starbucks. That's an
Very lovely purple
incentivization.
piece of paper.
Yeah. So it still catches me off.
Good reminder.
I know.
Good reminder.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we're good to move into the solar panels.
All right, so on top of everything I love to do at the school, solar is high up on the list. As some of you might recall, back in January, in the facilities update that Caitlin was giving, she briefly touched base upon the Simonian Center's solar with the 2 inverters that system runs on. They were having mechanical issues and as a result, safety concerns that the district wanted to learn more about and investigate. We partnered with the town. Jen Hager came down. Our facilities department was engaged. We brought a vendor in and they gave a number of suggestions to keep the district in line with best practices and making sure we weren't damaging equipment, but most importantly, making sure it was safe to operate. The 2 inverters were shut off that work in junction with the solar system of the Simonian Center. If you're unfamiliar, when the inverters are shut off, you are not generating solar production. So my job for the past 2 weeks is figuring out a system of attack plan. Originally, through working with Jen Hager, the idea was to pursue a grant that the state offers to cover the expenses of bringing that system back online. The window in which those applications are due are October of next year. If you're unfamiliar with solar panels, they work great when it's sunny and hot, which are the months coming up. When you're using this system to cover your electrical costs, you want to keep it running during the peak efficiency season. It's, even though we started to have mechanical issues in the winter, the snow, ice, and rain and leaves are covering those panels, so they're not producing much of anything in the winter months, which is where our solar credits come in play. I printed it out. There's a few different account reps for the town of Sutton with National Grid, who's our electrical provider. Myself and Jim Smith are two individuals put on those accounts. The district has 4 separate electrical accounts that I monitor. They are connected to various areas of the school, but the 2 primary balances are the Putnam Hill pole, which has a $57,000 credit balance, and the Boston Road pole, which has a $71,000 solar credit balance. So in the winter months, you tend to dip into some of these solar credits to cover electrical costs on those other primary, electrical accounts. And since we had to shut both inverters off, those credits are no longer growing at the same rate. They're almost stagnant. But we had a large reserve. We've managed that reserve. We've used it effectively and efficiently. So we're in a pretty good spot. But you don't want to keep it offline for long, especially when the summers when you produce most of those produce most of your solar energy, and then you're going into the winter months when you need to dip into your reserves. So we want to fix this problem fast. We want to fix it so that the district's equipment is being treated appropriately and to restore safety. I've worked with a vendor that's well received with other municipalities and school districts, and they will be coming out within the next week or so to do an on-site inspection of the Simonian Center solar. And this check includes checking all the panels and mounting hardware, identifying broken or cracked panels, ensuring all conduit runs are well secured, and that the integrity of all junction boxes have no water. The Simonian Center's roof is very flat. When the leaves are up on that roof, it clogs the gutters, and then the water backs up and it goes near these wires, and it's eroding the cinder blocks and the mounting equipment that is up there. So we've got some work to do, but they're going to verify the inverters are running with the latest firmware, visually and mechanically inspect all conductor terminals, ensure the inverter exhausts and filters are clean, string voltage performance analyzed and recorded. The infrared thermal imaging inspections are performed on switchgear and major disconnects, and the examination of all circuit breakers. So the reason why these 2 inverters were shut off is because they're blowing a fuse, which is tripping the circuit breaker, thus having the vendor recommend them be shut off temporarily until this repair is put in place. So the company will come out, we'll do an on-site inspection. We're not sure what the cost is going to be, but it's probably going to give you a perspective. This is close to $1 million solar system. It was installed in 2011. The district has never once put money into that solar system for repairs or upkeep. We talk about preventative maintenance. I do not believe outside of our own internal preventative maintenance that our facilities department assists us with, there's been very limited upkeep, and I can say almost definitely in my time with the district. But when you have something that's offsetting such a large expense, the electrical costs of both the Simonian and the elementary school, and you're putting very little money into the upkeep of that system, it's just asking for a budget disaster, in my opinion. So this vendor will do the inspection, give us a report, we'll know what the cost of the repairs will be, we'll bring that back to the committee, present it to you. Unfortunately, it's going to be something that school choice is going to have to probably assist us with. But we'll want to make those repairs as soon as possible to get the system back up and running. Then, you know, the business office and the district's going to want to put out a bid to get a service agreement in place for the solar system, so that a vendor is maintaining them on a monthly basis. As great as, you know, everyone is at Sutton, we are not electrical engineers. Solar is a very complex system, and we want the professionals handling it, because we don't want to be in a situation where, you know, we don't have the money to throw at fixing it down the road.
My only question was if you needed to put out like an RFI
So
or something.
the initial inspection is only $2,000,
Perfect.
which falls well under the threshold of $10,000. So as the procurement officer, I have to exercise best business practice, and seeing that they're a reputable vendor that service other municipalities and districts, I think they're the perfect company for the job. Once they get us that list of repairs and upkeep costs, that will most certainly need to go out to bid.
Great. Thank you.
Is there a possibility of that grant retroactively reimbursing us?
I'm willing to bet no.
I thought you were going to say that, but I figured I'd ask.
You know, just knowing the nature and how the state and in some circumstances the federal government issue grants, they probably aren't going to award it to someone who hasn't put a dollar into the upkeep or maintenance of the system. That's just my guess. Maybe a year down the road, once we have a service agreement in place and we're committed to upkeeping this infrastructure, it might be a different story. You know, I'm not an expert on that grant.
Mm-hmm.
I would defer to Jen Hager at the town level, because she would be the one that that would be assisting the district in applying, and the vendors themselves assist their clients in applying for these grants as well.
Okay.
It's unfortunate that the upkeep never happened, and at the time of
And I'm not
installation.
saying that our facilities team does the
No,
best that
yes.
they can. And we want to get it fixed, because the Simonian Center solar output is about 2/3 of our solar production. The high school's setup is, I think it's about 140,000 kilowatt hours generated each year, and the Simonian Center is closer to 300,000 to 400,000 kilowatt hours, so it's a much larger system.
Thank
Well,
you.
thank you for keeping us informed, and obviously let us know as we get that evaluation where we stand on things. That moves us to acceptance of grants and donations, and I'll need a motion for this one.
I move to approve accepting a $2,500 donation for middle school basketball received from Angela Ferrante and made in honor of John LeClaire.
Second?
Okay, first and seconded. Anything you want to, other than what it says, obviously, but
We had this individual reach out to us a few weeks ago expressing interest to donate to the Boys and Girls Middle School basketball program. The district happily accepted. These funds continue to allow that program to operate well into the future. It's received some substantial donations, so the program's going to be there for a little bit.
great. I think it's awesome.
Excellent.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things where we have to, by law, accept the grants and donations, but I think any district would be silly to turn away money that people are willing to give them. But thank you for the thought of donating to in honor of John, and I think when it's something practical and personal, it certainly goes a long way for sure. All right, we'll take it to a vote.
Kazachka, aye.
Gibbons, aye.
Jerome, aye.
Darling, aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Okay. That moves us on then to facilities and operations.
A lot of updates from Dave today. He had quite the lengthy report that he sent to me earlier. So the first piece that Harrison alluded to with the capital plan is that the final phase of the athletic field rehabilitation took place last week. So just so everyone knows what occurred, the soccer, baseball, and softball fields were slice-seeded, core aerated, and had a top dressing of fine sand spread and leveled. The sand in the aerated holes should improve drainage in the future, which we know was a big issue. The baseball and softball fields were also treated with a Verti quake machine. This relieves soil compaction at a depth of 4 to 10 inches and creates a wave action to shatter compacted soil, improving rooting development. And this will help with drainage issues on those two fields as well. And Dave would just like to give a compliment to our employees who have been working on the grounds, because we have received a lot of compliments on how nice our softball and baseball fields have looked this spring season. We are working currently on custodial reviews, and they have been completed, and job descriptions have been attached to them as another layer of accountability. When the operations team met with Dave, this was another piece that we wanted to make sure that when we have new hires, yes, you're filling out all of your new hire paperwork, but that we're actually giving you your job description and you're assigning something acknowledging that this is the job you are coming here to do, and you understand what all of those roles and responsibilities are. Wastewater plant, the capital plan repairs and upgrades are currently in progress. We just recently received a new to us generator from the sewer department that will be installed at the elementary school, which will be a significant upgrade from the one that we currently have there now. Dave has already begun getting quotes for the electrical, concrete, and propane pieces for that project, and we'll update the committee with more information about that. But it is a significantly larger generator, and it's a newer generator that the sewer department, like I said, was no longer using, and it just so happened that it would fit in with what we need. So they called us and offered it to us for free, which was wonderful. So thank you to them. The propane line repairs at the wastewater plant that I had talked about, I believe that was at the February meeting. Those have been completed. We are back in that larger tank that's behind the wastewater treatment plant. Next Gen, Dave had this company come in over April vacation to do a custodial training with all of our custodians. They had a training on bloodborne pathogens and just general sanitation, because Dave wants to make sure that we are not just, I think we have a big push for professional development for all of our teachers and our support staff, but oftentimes other members of our SESA unit are overlooked. So we want to make sure that we're providing professional development to all of our employees, and Dave's been working really hard at securing that. Dave has obtained pricing for the dugouts should that pass in the capital plan. As a reminder, these are the dugouts for the girls softball team, because we want them to have equitable access to those dugouts just like our boys baseball team does. Over the past couple of weeks, we have some interns in our facilities department, some seniors, and they painted all of the old picnic tables at the ELC, so that's a great benefit for our ELC students. We are currently receiving roof repair quotes based on the results from our thermal imaging scan. We did meet with the company that did that scan, and like I said, it looked like about 12% of the roof was saturated. We are looking to focus, we have about $40,000, I think-ish dollars left in the capital plan as to what areas we should address immediately. The areas that we're really looking to address are near the music wing, because we know we had that we had a big leak there, so we want to protect the work that we have had done, because there is still a lot of damage on the roof up there. We have a hot water heater that needs to be replaced in the wastewater plant. We are working on getting a quote for that. That is an unexpected cost. And let's see, they have begun the HVAC repairs to RTUs 4, 5, and 10. After the mechanical repairs are complete, automatic logic will come in and remove the Delta technology and install ATL technology, which Dave hopes will ensure a trouble-free HVAC system in all of the classrooms in the high school and the middle school moving forward. The radon pump for well 4, so that is that well that we were not using, it has been disconnected, so we can now use well 4 for irrigation of the soccer field.
Nice.
And then our annual fire extinguisher and fire alarm testings have all been completed. Those were done over April vacation. And then just a facilities use policy update. So we did have a first presentation of a draft of the facilities use policy and updates. We continue to work on that as a district with Zach, who is our auditorium supervisor, the business office. We've been listening to feedback from the community and are trying to incorporate some of those things into the updated facility use policy. Our goal is to have that ready for a presentation either at the first or second school committee meeting in June. Some of the things that we wanted to highlight is that just because things have operated a certain way for so long, we can't just say, oh, well, we've always done that, so we don't have to write it down. We have to write it down. So I think part of the confusion is if the school building is open, which it is during the weeknights until 10 p.m. when a custodian is on, we do not intend to charge organizations like the PTO or basketball for use of the facilities when the school is already open. And that was not clearly written out. It's just been past practice, but I think we've all come to the conclusion that with past practice, we now need to start to write those past practices down if that's what we're moving forward with. So that just needs to be more clearly articulated within the new policy, because that did bring about a lot of confusion for our Sutton youth basketball, for our Green Beans program, and for other programs as well. And that should be it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll give my 2 cents on the soccer field. I know this past season, what they did last year and they're doing again this year obviously seemed to help because the fields were good. And for the first time, when I can remember, some of the kids were complaining when they went to other school fields. So that's not normal for us. So it was great. And what happened and the maintenance and all that was very much appreciated. In regards to the rental fees, I think we did leave that after the first reading. And I know I came away with, and I feel like some of the community didn't quite get it, or maybe it wasn't conveyed well, is I don't think we're looking to make money off of those in-town school-related stuff. It's just, as a district, we're trying not to lose money. So as you said, if people are already there, fine. But if it's going to cost additional stuff, it's tough to add that to the school budget.
And the custodial fees do go hand in hand with the newly negotiated SESA contract, and some of those custodial fees, they do get double time on Sundays, and some of these events are occurring on Sundays. So some of that pricing is to reflect that we can't be losing money because we're paying our custodial staff double time.
Yep.
Absolutely, it's not the intent of any of us. I left the meeting feeling like, oh, God, like we were trying to get it on policy written down, but that meeting, I think we left feeling it's not the intention to charge organizations and things in Sutton that contribute so much.
Yeah. I think your point to trying to make things clear too. Sometimes we all just think everyone knows what we're talking about. And so if we can find ways to just make sure things are written and very clear and articulate. So that's why we solicit feedback and have multiple readings of policies, so we can ensure that happens.
And
so
I think
thank you.
another piece that we're looking to add, we have had some recent complaints with some organizations that have rented, that they haven't left the high school in the best space after the rental, and could be damaging some of our assets. So to make sure that we're covering ourselves, for example, we have a $15,000 piano that one of our music teachers came in and the cover was all sticky. So what happens if that piano had somehow been damaged? We just want to make sure that we're covering ourselves so that the district isn't having an unexpected $15,000 cost to replace a piano that was damaged by an outside organization.
Absolutely.
Anything else on facilities from anyone?
Great update.
Yeah,
They've
thank
been
you.
busy.
And thanks, Dave. Lots of
They've been very-
lots of stuff happening.
Very busy.
Very thorough.
That moves us then to approving policy updates.
I move to approve the policy updates for all policies brought forward except policy JFBB as presented.
Second.
Okay.
So
Caitlin,
Di
do you wanna-
made that
Yep.
excellent sheet for you that should be in there where every single policy that you're looking at today, she has what the policy is and what the action and reason is, the policy and the policy name. And these, again, are just policies that we're trying to just revise that more often than not are mask policy updates. They may be changing language here or there. And these are policies that would also be within our employee handbook that we are looking to hopefully roll out soon. We put the finishing touches on our draft of that, and we'll be sending it to both unions within the week. And some of these are just school committee policies for how you operate as a committee.
just as a reminder, everyone, this is all the policies listed in the packet except JFBB.
Yes, and so JFBB is the school choice policy. So at our last meeting, we had a conversation of if a school choice spot goes unfilled, does the committee want to put an end date so that we don't have students who may apply for that school choice spot in January, midway through the year, because it is open. Our administration feels that it would be better for those school choice spots to be determined before school starts so that we can plan for the rest of the year. And then the other piece that Di brought to my attention today is another past practice that has been in Sutton for a while, but it is not documented. So we may want to add to that policy, we give siblings preference.
Can we legally do that?
Yes.
We can.
Yes.
Okay.
So if, for example, we have 8 spots and we only have 3 open or 8 applications and we only have 3 spots open in 6th grade, prior practice in the district has been that if you have a sibling who's already a school choice student, we don't do a lottery. Those students get the spot before other students. And that has been the practice in the district.
In grades with open seats or
This current,
It has to be an open school choice
it has to be an
seat.
open
They
school
would just get
choice seat.
preference.
But then if you have a overabundance of applications, but your 3 spots, you have 3 siblings and the other 5 don't have siblings in the school, past practice has been that those 3 siblings get the spot and you don't go to a lottery. But it is not written in the policy anywhere.
I mean, any chance to keep a family as close together as possible is great. I just know in the past, we also had policy if you worked here, your child could school choice in,
I was gonna
and
bring
that
that
was
one
a
up.
concern that was not legal, and I think we pulled back a lot of stuff and kind of went towards it should be
I can
applied.
double check,
I emailed Di to ask her.
Yeah,
that,
I can
and
double
she couldn't
check.
find it, and she said she was going to check with the
because I know
union.
it's the policy in a neighboring town,
Yeah.
but I will double check with the council to make sure.
Yeah, let's do that, please.
And then did
I mean,
we
it
want to
sounds
add,
appropriate, it just-
right,
I want to be legally.
It makes sense to me if we can do it,
Yep.
but,
because that's how they have been operating.
okay.
One time we
And
did,
then
yeah.
the other piece was if the committee felt strongly either way about closing those open seats or not, we could add that to the policy as well eventually.
I mean, for the reasons that we discussed, it probably makes sense, and I don't know. I mean, I think there was a proposal, it's first week in September. Maybe it's something out to October, I don't know, but yeah, that probably sounds like there's some discussion to be had.
We can discuss that the next one. So
Yeah.
the first motion is all except school choice.
Yep.
Yep. And the other thing that was in there was pushing the dates out to May.
Yeah.
Is that feasible? I had always understood that, school choice was kind of more statewide and there was kind of an April timeframe, but that was just our policy. Okay.
And the
That
May
just kind of
date
gives you
works
some
better?
wiggle room
Okay.
to make your,
So school choice is JFBB. So first we need to discuss
the other
everything
ones.
but
So
that.
I don't know if you have questions on the other ones. Di put all of the action and the reasons
So most
behind each of those.
most of these are all related to the committee itself, our
Yep.
mission, organization goals, status, member authority, qualifications of oath. If someone resigns, if that leaves us with the term fulfillment,
Mm-hmm.
how we organize officers, those kind of things.
Yep.
Anyone have any questions on those policies? And then we can dive into the school choice policy with the next vote.
I don't.
No.
No, they looked reasonable.
Then let's take a vote for those first ones, then we can open up a motion for the next one.
Kozachka, aye.
Gibbons, aye.
Jerome, aye.
Darling, aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Now we need a motion about JFBB for school choice.
I move to approve policy JFBB, school choice policy as amended.
Can I just ask what the amendment is?
So the amendment would be if in the moment you want to add in the piece about closing it.
That's the one that's in our packet.
No.
No.
So what's the close date?
No, if you wanted to close them at the start of the school year, that portion
Yeah.
is what you would need to add in, and that would amend the policy, but but you'd have to do the language here. But if you want me to look into from council whether or not we can continue with that practice of offering the spots to siblings first, it might be best to just table that one policy till the June 2nd meeting, where I will have the answer to that question
I think
for
we
you.
need some more clarification on JFBB
Yep.
for those questions before we bring it up for an actual vote as amended. So we're going to table policy JFBB, school choice policy,
Preference for staff also.
while the direction
Potentially, yeah.
from the committee is given to the
So I
superintendent
will
to
ask for
meet
those
with
two,
legal.
both siblings and staff members.
Please.
Yep.
Okay, so that's tabled. So that then leaves us in terms of policies, just as a note for anyone in our packet, is the second reading of policy GBEBC. Could we get any closer letters for some of us who? And that's for gifts to and solicitations by staff. And that's a policy directly from MASC, but it's just the second reading. So we need to note that that's in our packet. So if anyone has questions about that, please read and review that and respond before the committee takes it up.
Seems to align with the state ethics, so.
Yeah. Okay. So then that leaves us with policy BDC. Golly. Who comes up with these letters?
So we're just seeing if we want to remove it because it's been removed from MASC.
Correct.
Yes.
So can we
Need a motion, right?
make a motion and then we could discuss what this actually is?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve rescinding policy BDC as presented.
Second.
Okay. So this is about appointed committee officials. Superintendent shall be appointed by vote of the committee as provided by law and perform duties that are prescribed by law and other duties not inconsistent thereto as a majority of the committee may direct. Is the policy?
That's what I just read, but that doesn't seem to,
It doesn't align with the one
that
you have?
doesn't align to what Di has here though, so I'm wondering if maybe she,
That's what I was confused on too.
it doesn't seem that the language matches the
And I don't have my
title.
full binder with me, unfortunately.
Yeah, I
Right?
was confused.
Do you see policy BDC? And is it different?
I'm looking, the one that I have is what you just read.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one that was, what I read was in our packet.
Yep.
But it doesn't
I
seem to
downloaded.
allow,
So it may be that we need to table this one as well, till we can get the appropriate language one in there.
yeah.
I'm okay to
So we
remove my
table that one,
motion.
yeah.
Oh, maybe these are for you guys. I don't know what's that.
What's that?
They're all the same thing.
But it's still, I think, the wrong language.
It might be.
We can still take them though.
PDC.
BDC.
Let's pass them out. We can pass them out to them and then. So you might want to, I'll ask Di about that.
I think these
She
are
is
for
the-
next
You wanna
She is
rescind
the
your-
policy guru. She spends
Okay, that is the
hours
one
a
we
day
have.
going through policies.
That's what I read.
I was
So
wondering
will-
what that pile was in my.
I will check in with her tomorrow.
Yeah,
Table it here.
I'll remove my motion and, so we can further review.
Okay.
So these are for these are for a May 19th, which I don't think we
Which
were
we
going.
aren't having.
Correct.
So these are future policies to discuss. the
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. At our next scheduled meeting, we would need to then review BDC and JFBB. Okay. So we're tabling those.
I think you can keep it. I don't.
No, you
need
can
it.
keep one. Then you don't have to come pick it up. Because it will be for the June 2nd meeting then.
Yep.
But there's an election before that.
That's all right. We can print new
I bet
ones.
you sneak,
Okay.
Okay.
way to project confidence.
I'm just trying to be
Just keeping things open.
ethical.
All right. No, we can print new ones. It's fine.
Okay.
I've got a few of them here, so it's fine. All right. So then the next one is just discussing the superintendent's evaluation. Just for everyone's knowledge who's listening or may watch this later, the school committee, by charge of the state, is required to evaluate the superintendent every year. The majority of our evaluation for this year came in for Caitlin as an interim superintendent. So everyone has kind of compiled some of their thoughts and comments on the goals that Caitlin has for different areas. So I had to submit that to her earlier. We'll submit it to the state, so technically it's public record. Anyone can access these evaluations. but I'll open it up to the committee if you guys just have general comments that you'd like to make before we.
Do you want to give a general consensus of what the evaluation was?
So just so everyone knows, there's a few goals, the goals that Caitlin talks about all year. So communication and community relations, district practices and policies, transitioning, both with the district leader team, instructional leadership team, and herself. And then our job is to kind of evaluate on those standards: instructional leadership, management and operations, family and community engagement, professional culture. I know there's more here. And then we have to give based upon all of those ratings an overall rating. So there's 4 kind of categories: unsatisfactory, needs improvement, proficient, and exemplary. I went through and aggregated all of the comments and feedback given by the committee, and the overall ranking is kind of a proficient to exemplary depending on the category for the work that Caitlin's done. And most of them just talk about how much effort Caitlin's poured in this past year, both as an interim and then moving to superintendent, covering the entire district and trying to really make headway in clarifying policies, as we've talked about tonight, and kind of HR and general paperwork, establishing kind of a team and just making sure that the community is well informed on a lot of the things that are happening. We know that's an area that we continue to try and strive for and work on, is making sure that people are well informed of what is happening in the district. You probably saw today another update went out from the superintendent's office, so if you didn't read it, you should. And so that's kind of where we all aligned ourselves, and there's different comments in there too. So with that, if anyone wants to give specific comments on something they said or something you specifically want to call out, by all means.
I particularly love the communication. I think the newsletters have been great. I think your efforts to communicate to the staff and the community has been wonderful and something that's been much needed.
Yeah, and I mean, without getting into detail, I actually had to look mine up on my email. All positive feedback. Again, I'm with you at the helm. I'm very excited for where the district's headed. I really like what I'm seeing. So, yeah, very appreciative. Thank you.
I struggled with this in general because I haven't had to do one in 3 years for one reason or another. But the way you outlined your goals made it really easy to tackle. Yeah, you a rock star. I'm so impressed with the communication, everything. It's been great so far. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Will she get all these?
Yeah, so I've already sent a copy over to Caitlin for herself, so she has that copy. Again, you know, the committee's goal is to evaluate how you're doing on the goals you set out for yourself, but also just as our district as a whole. And overall, the feedback that I was given from all the members is just how impressed we are with how much you've pulled stuff together, especially it was not an easy or smooth transition as much as we would like it to have been. So thank you for all your work. I think it's safe to say the district would not be in the shape it is if you were not in charge. So thank you. All right. Speaking of goals, any updates or comments you want to make about your goals?
The only thing is, so we took another look at the employee handbook, so the next step would be getting input from the STA and the SCSA about the handbook and what they think about it, things that need to be added, things they might have questions about. So like I said, we will get that to them this week so that they can have a look at that as well, because we would never want to implement something without their feedback as well in the process.
Great. Thank you.
What is the goal, like, of when will that be, like, implemented? Or?
I mean, the goal would be for it to be implemented for next school year, depending on the conversations that I have with the two unions.
It's a huge step forward. It still baffles me that we didn't have a standard handbook.
And it's not meant to be like an I gotcha document. It's really just meant to be somewhere where we're outlining what we expect in the district and also where they can find certain pieces of information, because right now we don't have that. And so I feel like employees are always searching for pieces of information and they don't know who to go to.
It's good for everybody to have a point of context to say this is what is expected, as opposed to, yeah, I thought you knew that. You know, so,
Yeah.
thank you.
Okay. On our end, I just want to notice we've talked a lot about facility policies and kind of evaluating solar panels and those kind of things. I think that's been a driving plan of this committee over the past year, is just talking a little bit more about that. And then you've heard a lot about kind of our budget process and what that looks like and trying to make sure that we're clearly addressing the needs of the district, but also working within the limitations and reasons that we have. So that's something that I think you're always going to see is honestly is some of our goals is just to continue to work on. We know we've got aging buildings. We know we have limited resources, but we need to make sure that we utilize those the best that we possibly can. So those are kind of our goals and updates. Any new business?
I have one kudos to shout out. Caitlin and Jessica Burke, our special ed director, have done an excellent job, and it is the first. It's the first time in my career at Sutton that we have all IA positions, knock on wood, filled in the district. I've never seen that to this date.
That should have been on the evaluation.
Maybe you can take over then. But, I've never seen it, so that's exciting for the district to be fully staffed within that unit of the SESA.
That's awesome.
Awesome, thank you. Thanks for sharing.
Well, do you have updates from the superintendent's report? My
That was
apologies.
the first update. So I'm
Great.
glad you said that because I didn't even realize. that
I
we
read
skipped over
discuss
that.
superintendent's evaluation and then crossed off superintendent's report. So that was just me speed reading. Sorry,
So
everyone.
that was the first, that we were fully staffed. We were no longer looking for instructional assistants, which is amazing. And that we are now shifting gears to all of our anticipated openings for next school year. So they are posted on School Spring and internally as anticipated because the town vote hasn't happened yet. And then we also have posted a bunch of positions for people, like I said, who are either resigning to pursue other opportunities or who may be retiring. And those positions are not posted as anticipated. And the building-based administration are working hard to assemble interview teams to hire all of those positions. I went into School Spring today and we have over 45 applicants for our 2 elementary teaching positions, which is really exciting. Just a plug for kindergarten registration. So in looking at the census data, we should have over 80 kids who have registered for kindergarten. And right now we are in the low 60s. We've sent out a lot of communications. We've already had kindergarten screening, but if anyone out there knows someone who should be registering for kindergarten, if you could send them our way so that we can get them registered and all ready to go for next year. And then the only other thing I wanted to touch on from the special ed department is that students in grades 5, 7, and 10 will participate in the spring BIMAS survey during the month of May. They've already participated in this one time this year. 10th graders have already done the survey. I think it was last week they did it. And staff utilize that data to understand student needs and provide additional support to groups and individuals around social emotional learning. I just want to make sure that families are aware that an email will be sent out via ThrillShare to each of those grade levels where families do have the opportunity to opt out of their child taking the survey. But if you do not opt out, your child will take the survey in school on the day that it is to be administered. So just keep an eye out for that communication to come if it's something that you would be choosing to opt out of for your student.
So grade 5, you said?
Yep, 5, 7, and 10. Yep.
Fifth,
It hasn't
they're going
happened
to
yet.
take a survey?
They did already one time
Okay.
in the fall. It's pretty easy. It's
Okay.
like multiple choice questions.
Okay.
And we can
Curious.
actually log in to the software when they're taking the survey, and we see the students taking it live in the moment, and monitor that they're actually doing it. They do a great job with it, Jen, I promise.
But if you don't want your kid to take it, you need to respond
You need
back
to opt
and opt out.
Yes, because the district's current policy is it's passive consent. You're notified, but you always have the opportunity to opt out. And then just one more thing for our high schoolers. Our seniors are now halfway through their 6-week internship program. And the feedback from their employers has been universally outstanding. They love to have them. And we're so proud that they're out in the world applying the skills and knowledge they've learned at Sutton High School in real workplace settings, and that we are inviting the whole Sutton community for our annual internship fair, which is on Monday, May 19th. And it's from 8:30 to 10:30, and all of the seniors will have like poster boards and presentations about their internships, and you can stop by and talk to each of them and hear about their internships and how that experience went. So please come and see all of those presentations from our seniors and hear about those fantastic experiences. From the elementary level, there are lots of events coming up. Ms. Bashon sent out an email with the dates for all those events. I'm not going to put all of those out here because nobody will remember them, but just look for that email. They have the Immigration Fair, the Invention Convention, 4th grade extravaganza, and the Biography Fair in 3rd grade. So be on the lookout for dates for those events because we love it when the families can come in and see all of that exciting information. And then just from the middle school, they had their spring chorus concert, and it was amazing. It was with our 6th grade chorus and our 7th and 8th grade chorus. The middle school spring track and field is going strong. It is doing very well, and they've demonstrated great team spirit and sportsmanship. And then the other day last week, I had the opportunity, along with some other administrators in the district and some other staff members, to go to our first ever Arbor Day tree planting ceremony at the middle school and the high school. This was put on by Mr. Keogh, one of our middle school teachers, Mr. Boudreau, who is our EL teacher at the middle school, high school, and then Dave Richard and Tom Hare also helped to support that. So it was a great day with lots of pictures. You can see them in the newsletter, but the students really enjoyed that. I think that is pretty much it. And the only other thing was that we are having that integrated monitoring review of Sutton Public Schools. You should have seen an email come out for me last week notifying that we're 30 days out. So they will be on, DESE will be on campus on the 28th and the 29th to conduct that review. And it is a review of our special education department.
Yeah, I would echo the job fair is excellent. And for anybody that's thinking of going, give yourself time. Every year I go, and I do plan to spend more than 15 minutes, and I never have enough time to go see all the kids and hear all the great stuff. And it really is a showcase. In a way, it's almost like a portfolio. You know, they do talk about what they've done, but it's a portfolio to see what the education system in town has brought them through and the way they present and talk to you. It's very impressive.
And it gets quite busy when I went last year for the first time because the elementary students will go over too, and they truly enjoy going over and learning from our high school seniors. So it will be busy, but worth your time.
That's great. Well, thank you. Lots of good things happening on. Now for new business. Sorry, everyone.
One more plug for the summer extension program. They are at record number of signups. I think it's close to 110 students so far, which is the largest it's ever been. They've finalized all of their field trips this summer with the ecotarium, the zoo, the aquarium. So they're really excited. They are finalizing the last bits. They just confirmed transportation for all of those. And the other plug that I wanted to throw out there was the Sutton Summer Fun Program, which is the sports program that Scott Kennedy oversees. You can dual enroll your child in both the extensions program and the Sutton Summer Fun Program, and they will actually have their staff walk them over to the sports camp, depending on if you sign up for multiple or just one in the summer. They work hand in hand, so don't be afraid to sign your kids up for extensions and then also sign them up for a summer camp, because they can do both of them and really get to try everything that Sutton offers for our students.
Great. They did a great job marketing it.
Seriously,
The previous
great marketing.
meeting. And honestly, the stuff they were offering sounds excellent, so I'm not surprised. That's great. Sorry.
Yeah, I had to take the flyer out of our kid's hand, so got a little out of control. Anyone else have any?
Yeah, like usual, I think a couple of us, I know I can't make the 19th, so I think we canceled that because I think there was at least two of us. Usually last meeting before elections, everybody was sent one of these. Hopefully people read them, attend town meeting. There's probably a lot of things on there you don't understand, but it's very important to go. That's where the town decides what they're going to do and how they're going to spend their money. So attend that. Also very important, vote in the election Tuesday, May 7th. Please vote. There's a lot of... the election is Tuesday, May 27th.
You said 7th.
Did I? Oh. It's late. I'm slurring my words.
We knew what you meant.
I haven't been here long enough to...
I'm sorry.
Yeah, so please vote. I also, as with every time, maybe Bruce didn't come because he was afraid of what I was going to say. But Jen, I wish you luck. I know you're up for re-election. Thank you. This is it's not an easy role to fill. Everybody up here, the pay is not great, but the impact that you get to make is wonderful. You know, despite what some people think. Bruce, I would have said the same. I've had the privilege of serving with him for, I think it's 9 years. I think a lot of people would look and think Bruce and I probably come to blows, but what they don't realize is we were friends before school committee, so I could leave after this and go have a drink with him, or, you know, a water. So again, I appreciate, even though there's been disagreements, I appreciate anybody's passion and their desire to help out. I think it's huge. Along with that, you can never make everyone happy. Being in this role, you've seen it impacts friendships, other things. And you get a little additional criticism. And I give you guys credit. You ran a big campaign last year. I've never had to do that. I was asked initially, and I've always run unopposed.
There's always next year.
I like to think it's because people like me. I really think it's just they're not excited. So I'm happy to see that there's more people running than roles. So with that, I am publicly letting people know I'm going to submit my resignation following graduation. So that opens a position for somebody to start it like I did. So I wish you guys the best of luck. I'll see you at graduation and other things.
Yeah, well, we
So-
certainly see you around town, and I'm not overly surprised by the news, but I am saddened. I think it goes without saying, I'm surprised it's only been 9 years. You've been a huge asset to this committee, and your wealth of knowledge is huge.
Bruce is 9 years.
So it's been nice to
he's
see.
longer
Yeah, you've been
than
longer
that.
than that.
Yeah, 15. It's enough.
It's a long run. Yeah. So thanks for your years too. That knowledge is, I've many times as chair have relied on Nate and his impact and input into this committee and what to do. So thank you.
I'm not leaving town, so.
That's right. Not leaving town, but the committee role.
I'm
So
just
thank
leaving
you.
Mondays.
And thanks for making the plug for town meeting. It's huge. I always feel like I get a chance to step back in time at town meetings, and you get assemble everyone from town and say their piece and make a vote. So if you haven't been, you should be.
So tomorrow evening, there's a candidate forum for all
Yep.
open seats. I believe even library trustees, select board, planning, school committee. I don't know if I'm missing one. So it's going to be held 7 p.m., I believe, at the high school.
Yeah, they're having that, and I believe there's a boosters meeting.
At the same time.
Trying to work
All right.
opposite that to some degree, because much like that with the boosters, there's been a lot more attendance. That's the athletic boosters. There's a lot of people in that are graduating, or their kids are graduating out. So if you want to help boosters, check that out. They do have a site, Sutton Athletic Boosters. So
Thank you.
Yeah.
Huge work that goes behind the scenes. Like many things, it takes a lot of hands to make things work. So if you're interested in that, the boosters would love to have you, for sure.
Yep.
Okay. Any other new business?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
That's it? That's all we need?
Second.
Okay.
Kazachka, aye.
Gibbons, aye.
Jerome, aye.
Darling, aye.
Motion passes 4-0. Thanks, everyone. Meeting's
Recording
adjourned.
stopped.
I thought you would say Kazachka in person.
So
Had missed opportunity.
I was reading over that.
Communicate to you all of the required communications with governance, as well as an internal